Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janarandana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janarandana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janarandana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janarandana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Story Shishimata Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Story Shishimata Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Anantikoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki. Naam Acharya Sridas Thakur Ki. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Sisi Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Navadip Dham Ki. Ganga Maya Jamuna Maya Ki. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Nitai Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So thank you for coming this evening. So we're going to be discussing about the Ram Leela, Valmiki Ramayana, from this book here. This is just like a summary of all the verses which we'll speak. So I will go through this book here a little bit. I will paraphrase most of the, at least about, we can do about 6 or 7 pages. I'll paraphrase, but I will connect it with the Srimad Bhagavatam, which speaks about the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra, the 9th canto. So I'll intersperse it and connect it with what's being said what's being said in the Srimad Bhagavatam with the purpose by Srila Prabhupada, which is important to hear. So previously, when I spoke on the Ram Leela, I spoke all from Prabhupada's books. I extracted everything from Prabhupada's books, but I'm asked to speak from this book. So this is the Bal Khanda. There's many like sections to it, and there's a description of how this is Valmiki Ramayana. So Narada Muni comes to Valmiki's ashram. And when Narada comes to Valmiki's ashram, Valmiki immediately stands up and give him respect and offer him obeisances, wash his feet, and give him suitable presentations. So the reception, I call that the reception. The reception Narada got from Valmiki is very important to note. Because when one is received in a very loving way, the exchange and the atmosphere or the ether, the space, creates a very congenial atmosphere to communicate or exchange Krishna Katha. So therefore, the reception is important, and Narada Muni and Valmiki meet in such a nice way, but again, when Narada walked in, he immediately stood up, because in the history of the pastimes of Lord Krishna and Balaram, at one point there was Ramaharsana Sutta, who was Vyasadev's disciple. And he remained seated. He didn't acknowledge the presence of Lord Balaram, and there was like a cause for concern. But then later, he was killed with a blade of grass. So Rama Sutta, so it's the etiquette, we must always follow etiquettes, because there's a lot of etiquettes, and from the Ramayana you learn so many different etiquettes, as you go through it. We don't have so much time to go through it, but as you go through it, there's so much etiquette involved, and one has to be conscious of the etiquette. And if you don't follow the etiquette, then it affects your Krishna consciousness. So then, there's a description after the reception. There's inquiries and the qualities of a leader. Valmiki raises the point that who present on earth is the foremost of all the greatest personalities. Who is that person? And he give a list of all the type of qualities that a person should have, who's like a leader. He must be most learned, most powerful, most attractive bodily features, noble-minded, different qualities, truthful, grateful, clever, welfare of all living beings, seeing to the welfare of everybody. He doesn't become angry, he don't bear any malice. So this is the qualities of a leader. And he instills fear in the demigods. And he gives protection to all three worlds. So all these qualities Valmiki is raising. Who is that person? And then, and also the opulence. The person has to have all opulence. So even in these qualities, therefore important in a leader is to have these qualities. In any institution, like even a spiritual institution, or even the country or any institution, we must have leaders like that. Like I just watched a clip just now before I came up here, where the chief minister of the UP, he's hammering cow killing. It's banned, cow killing in UP and all is banned. And he's hammering, his life to the world, because he's a sannyasi. He's a sannyasi. And he's a chief minister, and he's hammering. So the point is that as a leader, we can learn. We can take lessons from the Ramayana. So some of the quality, like welfare of all living beings. And when you look in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we're looking at now what Sukadev Goswami spoke in the Bhagavatam, which is very bona fide. And I'll just read one verse. 9 chapter, text number 1, 9 canto, chapter 1, text 25. After accepting the throne of the government by the fervent request of his younger brother Bharat, Lord Ramachandra ordered his younger brothers to go out and conquer the entire world, while he personally remained in the capital to give audience to all the citizens and residents of the palace and supervise the governmental affairs with his other assistant. So Prabhupada writes a very good purport, and this is so, he's talking about a quality of a leader, the welfare of all beings. He's talking about, Lord Ram did not allow his devotees or assistants to be engaged in sense gratification. And I was thinking, what could be that sense gratification? The sense gratification is that they will remain at home and then they'll enjoy his presence as the Supreme Lord. That's the sense gratification. It's an interesting way how Prabhupada put it. He didn't want them to stay, so therefore he ordered them to go out and achieve victory all over the world. Because it was customary for Kshatriyas to go out and conquer like smaller states and bring them under control. So when Lord Ramchandra sent his brothers out to go out and conquer, he was actually favoring them. And then Prabhupada said a very interesting thing in his purport, which is applicable to us. He said, many of the Lord's devotees in Vrindavan have taken the vow not to leave Vrindavan to preach Krishna consciousness. But, Krishna says that this thing should be spread, or Krishna consciousness should be spread all over the world, in every town and village. This is what is said by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Priti vache acha nagara di gram sarvatra pracharya hoibe more nam. So he's saying a pure devotee therefore must execute the order of the Lord and must not try to gratify the senses by remaining in one place. He must go out, go give this Krishna consciousness. So every devotee should spread Krishna consciousness. It's amazing how he linked this whole thing up, Srila Prabhupada. And every devotee should therefore spread Krishna consciousness by preaching. Because whoever he meets, he should tell them, right, surrender. Sarva dharman parityaja, mam ekam sharanam vraja. You should give up everything and surrender to Krishna. So this is like victory. You know, you just like how they went out to conquer. So when you go out and preach, that's victory. But then Prabhupada, you know, he says in his purport, there are also Kanishta Adhikaris that do not preach about the Lord. Because they want to stay in one place, stay personally in Ayodhya. That may not be so good. Best to go out. But even for those people who are Kanishta Adhikaris, so they are in Ayodhya. So therefore Lord Ram, he stayed back to personally give them audience. What an amazing way for the people in general. So therefore, when we look at this verse, we can see that the Lord was merciful to everyone, and he knows how to show his favor to each individual person according to their capacity. Because one who abides by the order of the Lord is a pure devotee. Because it's not that he especially favored the citizens of Ayodhya by sending his brothers out. It was not like that. One should not mistakenly think that he sent his younger brothers to and then he stayed in Ayodhya with the citizens. No. He's merciful to everyone, Lord Ram. So from this quality and further on, the way he talks about welfare of all living beings, how he controls, how he rules. And in the next verse in the Bhagavatam, it talks about during the reign of Lord Ramachandra, the streets of the capital of Ayodhya were sprinkled with perfume water and drops of perfume liquor. So how they do it, they use elephants, because the elephant can suck the water, and they can throw it out with their tongue. So they use the elephants, and all this perfume liquor, meaning like all perfume. And when the citizens saw the Lord personally supervising the affairs of the city in such opulence, because one of the things he says is a reservoir of all opulence, they appreciated this opulence very much, that they could go out and they don't have to get sprinkling machines, because these elephants were doing it, were sucking water through his tongue and throwing it out in shower. So we can see the opulence of Ayodhya. He was not a sleeping monarch, just left everything. He was involved in the affairs. So these are the qualities that Valmiki is talking about of the great personality Lord Ram. So then okay, we don't have much time. Okay, then there's a response from Narada. Narada says, who is that person? He says, there is a king named Lord Ram, who appeared in the Ikshvaku dynasty. Where do you hear this name? As the son of Maharaj Dasarath. So this is from this book here. He was colored with the tinge green, and he was conversant with weapons, the knowledge of the Vedas. So this is a response Narada is giving to Valmiki. And then Narada briefly he narrates the history of Ram. He narrates the history of Lord Ram. But what is that verse? That verse in the 4th chapter. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Visvita Yogam Proktavan Aham Avayam Vivasvan Manava Prabha Manurikshvakuha Bravit. The personality of God and Lord Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed to Ikshvaku. So that Ikshvaku dynasty, Lord Ram appeared. And Prabhupada writes it in the purport in the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, text 1. So he gives a brief discussion, but then in this book they quote a verse that's also in the 9th canto. And in that verse, it talks about how in the kingdom of Lord Ram there was no disease. The women were chaste. There were no mental disturbances. Disease, old age, bereavement, bodily, aches and distress and lamentation and fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death if you didn't want it. How's that? So because all these facilities were there, because Lord Ramachandra presence as the king for the entire world, he was present because he was the Lord. But Srila Prabhupada make a very nice point in the purport. He says a similar situation can be introduced immediately even in this age, in Kali Yuga. And how is that possible? And then he says, Kali Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar. Kali Kale Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar. So Krishna descends in this Kali Yuga in the form of his holy name. And if we chant offenselessly, Ram and Krishna will be present in this age. That's how it works. Then the kingdom of Ram is immediately immensely popular and beneficial. And the spreading of the Hare Krishna movement can immediately introduce a similar situation in Kali Yuga. How's that? What an interesting way to have Lord Ram, right? So this description, when he gave this description, then Narada departs from Valmiki's ashram. He leaves. So Valmiki, he was in meditation, and he was in deep meditation, and he had certain experiences. So he went to this disciple and he took bath in a river called, I think it was, I can't remember, anyway, with his disciple Bharat. So he began to meditate deeply into the words of Narada's words. So as he was thinking about what Narada had told him, then his eyes fell on two birds, two cranes. And these two cranes were engaged in a sexual relationship. And they were singing very melodiously. They were singing very melodiously. So whilst this was going on, a hunter came and he released his arrow. And it hit the male bird. And it killed the male bird, fell on the ground. And then the female bird started crying in pain. So when Valmiki saw this, because he's like out of compassion, when he's witnessed this whole act, his response to the hunter was, "O killer of birds, may you never find peace in mind for endless years to follow." That was his curse. So he cursed the hunter. But when he cursed the hunter, he was angry. He was very angry. So Valmiki, he felt some shame. Because he became a victim to his uncontrolled anger. And when one has anger, he cannot advance spiritually. Well, anger has to be utilized properly when one has anger, but if you cannot control anger, then your advancement in spiritual life is checked. So how do you overcome anger? How do you overcome anger? Do you know? By prayer. Okay. That's a good answer. How do you overcome it? By forgiving. So when you forgive, then you become free from anger. It's an interesting way. But you can pray to forgive. Even if you're not very forgiving, then you pray to become forgiving. Then you can overcome, you become free from anger. So like this, Valmiki had cursed this hunter, but he felt bad. And then he thought, because he regretted it, because all living entities are under the control of the modes of nature. So he regretted it. But then he realized that curse came out of his mouth in a very perfect meter. So, he tried to realize, why was this so? So then after that, after the curse, he bathed in a river and he returned to his ashram. And he began contemplating very deeply about this curse. Very, very deeply about the curse. And as he was contemplating and being introspective and praying, then Brahma, he comes down to this ashram. He's coming to Valmiki's ashram. So Brahma is coming to Valmiki's ashram. So immediately he welcomed Brahma. So we started our discussion about reception. So he again received Brahma very nicely. So then Brahma told him something, because he was very angry and he was worried that he had offended this hunter. So Brahma, he pacifies him like this, and I'll read the words. After being honored by Lord Brahma, who can understand the hearts of everyone, spoke as follows. Blessed sage, he's referring to Valmiki, do not grieve thinking that you wrongly cursed the hunter. I will tell you something very confidential. The words that you had angrily spoken were not your own. They were my words, spoken by you instrumentally for the purpose of inspiring you to accomplish a great task. The time has come for you to compose the history of Lord Ramachandra's life. This will be a narration full of transcendental pastimes meant for the ultimate welfare of all within this world. So it's very interesting that he was that Brahma was speaking through Valmiki, and he pacifies him in his anxiety, and then after that a great revelation takes place in Valmiki. We'll finish. We'll take a few minutes more and then we'll complete it. Anyway, Brahma, before he departs, he tells me, the narration of the Ramayana that you will do will be faultless. And then he departs. But then Valmiki get a realization. Sisi Radharanath ki. So what happened, that he sat down and he could visualize all the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. Valmiki visualized the whole thing. And there were like 24,000 verses. The Ramayana, 24,000. When we were very young, there was sometimes some very elderly people would come in the night and we should sit outside and they will talk this, Segi you may have known, they would talk this katha about Lord Ram. And then, so he visualized the whole thing, and it's all in his memory. Because in those days, everything was in memory of the Brahman. And they were called Shruti Dars. If he spoke once, they remembered everything. So like this, so he wondered, now he got this knowledge. He has to teach it to somebody who can retain it in their memory. So then he was thinking who that could be. Then he was keeping, because remember, if you know the history, that Love and Kush, the two sons of Lord Ram, were born in exile when Sita was with Valmiki. So Lava and Kush were the two boys, young boys, and they grew up in the ashram of Valmiki. So they would, they were very respectful to Valmiki. So when he was contemplating, they came and touched his feet. And they came and touched his feet. Then he realized that they were the most suitably qualified people to keep this Ramayana, the pastimes of Lord Ram. It's a very interesting way how it has come. So they became the recipients of this great epic, and they retained it, these two boys. So then what happens is, Love and Kush, after receiving the Ramayana, then what we were speaking about earlier on, they start traveling all over the world and reciting the Lord Ram's pastimes. So then they came to the city of Ayodhya. So Lord Ram, he saw these two boys wandering in the streets. So he took these two boys, he didn't know they were his sons. He takes them home, and then they started reciting the Ramayana in the palace. All the pastimes of Lord Ram, everything they were speaking. And all Lord Ram and the brothers Shatruguna, Lakshman, Bharat, they all became absorbed in this, hearing these pastimes from this Love and Kush. They were like absorbed in hearing it. So then, Ayodhya, and the city of Ayodhya was built in a very, it was very, very strongly built. Very strong walls. But the residents of Ayodhya, they were very cooperative. They cooperated with each other. So now this knowledge has come. Brahma told Valmiki, and this all becoming true, and now Love and Kush. So it's important that the knowledge is kept in disciplic succession. That's why the knowledge is passed down. Vedic knowledge is absolute. Look, this Ramayana, so many millions of years, up till now we can hear it and we're not tired. So it must be spiritual. It must be spiritual, because you'll get tired of something material. So like this, but Lord Ram's father, Maharaj Dasarath, was very unhappy because he didn't have a son. Because you have to have a son, to rule the kingdom. So then, he did many horse sacrifices, but still, he was not successful in having a son. And we'll stop at this point. It's very interesting. Dasarath was a great king, but I read something that was very interesting that he did, that left, that he felt so much pain. This is one of the things I'll just elaborate on this point, and we'll close. This incident is described in the Ramayana about Lord Ramachandra's father, Dasarath, who was like expert in archery, in shooting, or piercing an animal and target just by hearing the sound it made. Without seeing it, by sound they can just pull the arrow, and by sound it'll just go and kill the person. So once he was hunting in the forest, a Brahmin named Shravan had gone to the river to fetch water for his parents. And his parents were blind. So while Shravan was drawing the water, Dasarath now is hearing this sound, and thinking this was like an elephant drinking water. So he shot an arrow in that direction. But when he shot that arrow, as it left, it hit this boy, and he was wounded. So then this boy was wounded. Dasarath rushes to him, and he's about to leave the world, but he says that my parents are very thirsty, and they ask for some water. And this is the situation. So the king, he took the water pot. And then the boy had left the world. and went to the parents' house. And the blind father is saying, "My child, why have you taken so long to fetch the water today? And why are you saying nothing?" Because Dasarath is standing there, the father of Lord Ram. And he was like devastated, because Dasarath now, he was feeling bad to tell him, but he had to tell him. And he said, "I mistook your son for an animal and I killed him." As soon as the sage, hears the tragic news, he faints. So after some time, he regained his consciousness. He began to lament his loss. Part 2 tomorrow, I think. Yeah. So this is where we'll stop. This is so interesting of Lord Ram. These verses, over 24,000 verses. When Ram Govinda Maharaj comes, he'll be reading the exact Sanskrit. This is just written in like a story form kind of thing. But the actual verses, that's why I was reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the verses, and explaining the verses. But when Ram Govinda Maharaj does it, he'll read the actual verses in Sanskrit and explain it in English. So try to listen to the pastimes of Lord Ram. So we'll continue from there tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Okay. You can take darshan, you can go near Krishna. You could go right in the front, it's okay. He was always good. See Krishna.